This video documents student experiences in the Undergraduate Writing Tutor program at Duke University. The Undergraduate Writing Tutor, or UWT program, pairs a tutor with a section of Writing 20, a writing-intensive course required for all first-year students.
The UWT helps guide students through their first experiences in college-level academic writing, meeting with each student twice throughout the semester. Sessions might consist of brainstorming for a specific prompt, evaluating the argument of a working draft, or reviewing the coherence and flow of a final draft.
We followed 3 students through their first appointments and recorded a series of interviews regarding their meetings. In this video, you will see a commentary from the pre- and post-appointment interviews, as well as reflections from both students and their respective tutors about the experience as a whole.
We want to provide you with a genuine inside look into these first-time appointments through the perspectives of both parties. Hopefully, with this knowledge, you can better prepare yourself for your first appointment.
For me, it's quite an interesting novelty, so I guess I'm a little nervous going into it. I'm hoping to get some structure from the appointment to get, as I said, an outsider's perspective of whether it's cohesive, whether the message I'm trying to give is clear. 2 of my drafts, I've written 2 drafts, I've completely scrapped the one and rewritten it. So I have my 2 drafts with me, I have my ideas, and I have a lot of questions.
There's a lot more work to do. I have a lot of content. I have like 4,000 words. I just need to I need a focus, I need an argument, I need a thesis. That's what I'm working on. So that's kind of a struggle here.
I feel really shaky about it, actually. It's been hard to actually sit down and revise my paper, so it's nice to have this kind of support from a tutor to get like a second person's opinion on my paper.
For any appointment, we want students to think about what they want to work on in the appointment.
Either I or the professor sends them this pre-session reflection sheet, and it's really convenient because it asks them to think about their paper, and if they don't have a paper or draft with them, at least ideas. So it asks them how much time do they have to devote to this paper, what are they concerned about, issues like flow or grammar, or a lot of students come in feeling like they don't understand the prompt. So if they write that down on the reflection sheet, and if they also if they have a draft, if they bring me copies of the draft so I can look at it simultaneously with them, that's really helpful.
We ask them to fill out the pre-reflection form, but a lot of times that just doesn't happen. And they come in and just hand me the paper and it's like, well, what do you think? And that's a little too open-ended to give really constructive criticism and help within. We only have 50 minutes.
So one tool that we usually use is reverse outlining. So we'll go through the paper and say, what was the main idea of each paragraph, and then we can see if the outline of the paper they wrote matches the outline they wrote beforehand, or if that outline makes sense or not.
I always make sure to ask questions like, do you understand what I'm saying? How did you feel about what you wrote? And even when I suggest ideas, it's always like, do you think this is a good idea? Because ultimately it's like the student's paper.
And so the things that I normally suggest to them, even if we're not talking about them, are like ways to reorganize or ways to like self-edit when I'm not there, like things like reverse outlining, things like just ways to look at your paper differently, like printing it out, cutting up the pieces, having somebody try to put them back together.
Very well. Adrian gave me some really interesting points, which I hadn't been able to see. Yeah, she did give me structure, the structure that I was looking for. She gave me that perspective, that outside perspective that I really needed. It was informal enough that it was comfortable, but informative enough that it was really, really worth it. Restructuring my first paragraph and coming up with a conclusion, which would be good. Expanding on several points that she pointed out were my main argument that I hadn't expanded on, definitely. So kind of beefing it out, I think.
Really well. I was glad she knew what her areas of kind of concern were, and so we were able to focus on race. So we just kind of went through and talked about the points that she was trying to make and where the reader could be like, well, how or why. And those are the things that it's really important that you need to explain and articulate your argument, or else the reader's never going to get there.
I think I need to read it a few more times and then read it out loud, because she said that sometimes just hearing your own voice will reinforce the flow of your paper. Once I have a topic for my paper, I just need to keep making sure that throughout the paper I keep on topic and stay focused within the paragraph. I think I would schedule the session a bit more towards the middle of the writing process, because my paper is due really soon, and so this is more towards the end. And then I think this would be really helpful right after I had written my first rough draft, because then I would have more time to edit my paper and then go through it, and then possibly schedule another appointment if I needed
It
it.
was a really, really good session. She was really focused and knew what she wanted to work on. After we read through the paper, she had a lot of ideas, and it was really good because it was very much driven
So
by
I had
her.
a lot of thoughts and tangents and stream of consciousness, but I didn't really have an argument yet, so we were trying to work on my argument. And once we got the argument formulated, the rest of the paper could kind of flow from that, and some of what I already had I could tie into that, and some of it I had to let go.
He kind of was going in a direction without having an idea of where it was going to take him, and so we kind of had to pull in the reins a little bit and focus his ideas. The things that he told me were great ideas for a thesis, but he had not brought them into his paper, and so we discussed places to tweak and maybe some rearrangements and things, but I think he's going in a really good direction now, so I was glad that we could kind of get his thoughts in line for him.
Any session where a student feels like their writing is going to be better is always successful.
Like if the student comes in and has a problem, and at the end I feel, and the student feels that I've helped them solve problems with their paper, then I feel like that's a really successful session.
But I feel like the revision process is really helpful for me to hear it through someone else's voice. My writing tutor really helped me see a better way to make the paper flow and a better way to organize my paper, so I kind of structurally changed the way the layout was.
Adrian really helped me start going in the right direction. The paper I brought to her, she kind of pointed me in a different direction, and I kind of went with that, so I ended up redoing a lot of my paper off of what we went over in that meeting, and I think it came out really positive. She could kind of look at the paper more from like, does this make sense kind of idea, to someone who's not intimately involved with what's going on, and I think that was another good perspective.
It's been good to learn to just state what I think and leave it out there for interpretation. Yeah.
Think about questions you want to ask her. Don't just be like, here's my paper. You know, have specific things you want her to look at.
Definitely take it seriously. Take some time with the pre-writing appointment session form, and then really sit down with your paper and analyze what parts you think need the most work. Because if you go in and you're really just there to be there and get the assignment done, it's not going to serve you any purpose at all. It's not going to help you. So take it seriously, and then in the end you will get good results.
I can see clearly now, the rain is gone. I can see all.
The UWT program is so cool. The appointment was so helpful.
I love writing.
Gone are the dark clouds that had me blind. It's gonna be a bright